while she goes the other way to Clan Grant's seat. Then she may rejoin with Henry. Julia argues that there is safety in numbers. She could not bear the thought of Brian dying while she was abroad. So Julia stays with him. However, he believes she is a ghost. No, my buddy. That's your wum. Then she waits. A lady should be able to hold her own water. Ellen urinates in a pot. The doctor and priest check her urine, finding it to be crystal clear. Next, it's time to examine Ellen's downstairs to see if she's intact. How invasive. The physician conducts the examination. Poor Ellen looks so uncomfortable. Hopefully, Julia's concoction will fool these fools. Virgo intacta, the minister announces to everyone in the great hall. Huzzah! It worked. Colum looks relieved. Hope springs eternal. Ellen and Mrs. Fitz return to Ellen's apartments to notify Julia that her techniques worked. Ellen is in the clear. Mrs. Fitz and Ellen thank Julia. Mrs. Fitz is still perplexed as to how Julia slipped inside the castle. However, she remains thankful. Julia and Henry eventually run into one other in the corridor. Initially, Henry is skeptical. His wife has died. Is he seeing her ghost again? Hope springs eternal. Ellen and Mrs. Fitz return to Ellen's apartments to notify Julia that her techniques worked. Ellen is in the clear. Mrs. Fitz and Ellen thank Julia. Mrs. Fitz is still perplexed as to how Julia slipped inside the castle. However, she remains thankful. Julia and Henry eventually run into one other in the corridor. Initially, Henry is skeptical. His wife has died. Is he seeing her ghost again? Julia motioned for Henry to accompany her downstairs. Henry follows her as she descends the stairs. He strokes her face. Henry still doesn't believe it. Hope springs eternal, Julia adds, grasping his hand. That demonstrates to him that she is genuine. They kiss. Finally. My babies have been reunited, and it feels great. Henry asks about their child. Julia says that she named him William, after Henry's grandpa. My heart. Unfortunately, Brian cuts the reunion short, informing Julia that they must depart. After this, he realizes Julia has found Henry. Julia introduces them to one another. Before they separate ways, Julia informs Henry she is at Castle Leathers and that they will meet again. Ugh. Clan shakeup. After Julia and Brian leave, Arch discovers Henry by himself. Henry said he believed he saw his wife. We notice a smile on his face. Outside, Malcolm misinterprets Henry's joy about Julia for delight over the outcome of the purity test. Henry plays along, stating he has never questioned Ellen. Malcolm praises Henry for what he has done for the clan. At the same time, Mrs. Fitz apprehends Brian and Julia before they escape down the tunnel. She returns Brian's tartan from Ellen's possessions. Mrs. Fitz advises Brian to keep away from Ellen. Following this, a rider appears bearing a letter for Malcolm. Henry opens it and reads it quickly. He informs Malcolm that Isaac Grant has died. Ellen ultimately reveals to Mrs. Fitz that she is not a virgin. Mrs. Fitz guesses it's her nephew Murtagh, but Ellen disputes that he was her first. In fact, she refuses to identify Brian. She swears to carry his name to the grave. Meanwhile, Davina is concerned about Brian's reckless behavior. She insists that Ellen MacKenzie will kill him. Davina asks Julia to back her up. He cannot travel to Leoch. Julia admits that Davina is correct. However, she has a remedy for Ellen's purity test. She combines crushed sugar with eggs. Then she grabs the alum. Julia inquires whether Brian has gunpowder or saltpeter. Julia concocts a potion to assist Ellen pass her test. She informs them that she read about these compounds functioning not to repair a woman's hymen but to create the illusion of virginity. Davina was unaware that Julia could read. Julia references the Trotula, a medieval compendium of women's medicine, pointing out that women have been self-medicating for centuries. Julia agrees to join Brian to Leoch. After all, she had already entered the castle through a secret tunnel. Brian initially strongly